an AppleVis original.
Hello there, and welcome to the AppleVis Extra podcast, episode number 106. My name is David Nason, and I'm delighted to be joined by AppleVis colleague and well-known voice Thomas Domville to talk today and talk to the developer of Tapestry, a brand new app for iOS, or pretty new. How are you, Thomas?
I'm doing great, Dave. This is going to be an amazing interview. Tapestry is something just so revolutionary and something so unique, and that's what's going to make this so special.
Definitely. It's a really cool app, Tapestry. It's from the Iconfactory, who you may remember from Twitterific. So social media has changed so much. Twitterific was one of those victims and our users with it when Twitter cut off third-party apps. So Tapestry is part of the Fediverse, the open social web, call it what you will, and hopefully a big part of the future of social media. So without further ado, we can jump into our chat with Ged. Ged, thanks for joining us. It's great to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too. Thanks for having me.
It's really we were delighted to get in touch with you. There was a lot of, excitement and a lot of talk on, Mastodon specifically for me, but I guess in the blind community and on AppleVis.com, of course, when we saw that Iconfactory had released a new app. So do you want to, first of all, tell us a little bit about Tapestry, but we might also go back and talk about some of the stuff Iconfactory have done in the past as well.
Yeah, boy, we've been around for so long, it's hard to know where to start. We've been doing this. 2026 will be our 30th year in business. So we've been making apps for quite a while, and some of your listeners may know us from Twitterific. We made one of the first third-party Twitter clients back in the day, and that, of course, has gone the way of the dodo, but we've put our attention towards the open web and the Fediverse and created a new app called Tapestry, which aims to be a unified personal timeline for all of your social online needs. It can pull in RSS feeds, YouTube channels, podcasts, Blue Sky accounts, Mastodon accounts, microblog, and then a whole host of others to present them in a chronological, unified timeline that you can control yourself. How you read, you decide what you see and what you don't see, not some algorithm, not some billionaire dictating what does and doesn't go into your feed. And we launched at the beginning of February, and it's going pretty well. I'm pleased with how it's been going. So
that's great. There's a lot to dig into there. I suppose question one is, why did you think this was the way to go, or why did you want to create an app that does this?
Well, after Twitter closed itself off to third-party developers, we knew we wanted to do something, and we turned our attention personally to Mastodon because it was open, and a lot of our friends jumped on there at the time. That was before Blue Sky came around, and we really liked Mastodon. It offered a lot of opportunities and no algorithm and all of that. And so we put our efforts in. We thought about making a Mastodon specific client, but Craig Hockenberry, our lead developer, he had the notion to make something that was more open than just Mastodon, and a way to read content from across the open web. If it's not behind a walled garden, if it's available on the open web, then you can probably add it to Tapestry. And that was the impetus behind it. And he created a proof of concept. We created a Kickstarter and got it funded, and more than funded. We met some stretch goals and beyond, and spent the last year working on it.
That's amazing. I think, Thomas, you'll agree that it's interesting. We coincidentally, I guess, as a community, when Twitter went away, actually even before, really when Twitter stopped supporting third-party apps was a huge closing of the gates for us. We kind of felt as a community, or a lot of us anyway, we didn't like the Twitter app itself, and we didn't even like the concept maybe. So a lot of us went to Mastodon, I think it's fair to say as well, isn't it, Thomas?
Oh yeah, I totally agree. I mean, well, it wasn't just a blow to us, but it was also a massive blow to Iconfactory. As Jeb was saying, is that Twitterific was their bread and butter, and they've been around for eons, and just to see that disappear was just. It was just a heartbreaker for all of us, and we lost something that was so dearly to us and we use on a daily basis. But it was soon after that, and I think that you guys made a excellent decision and not pigeonhole yourself into a particular platform like Mastodon, because I think that was a lesson learned with Twitter, and making it such a open web concept was just beautiful. I know you guys won multiple awards with AppleVis community for the Golden Apples Award for Twitterific, and I just probably say that it's going to be easily done for you guys with Tapestry. So we're excited. Yeah, you guys have been working on Tapestry for a long time. When did you guys start on Tapestry?
Well, Craig really started on it over a year ago, probably a year and a half ago. And creating the prototype, it was really, really rough, and it was just a concept at that time. And we tabled it for a long time because we had other priorities. We have we have a whole host of apps that we work on, and there's only so many of us. We only have 2 engineers, and at the moment we have 3 designers, so we can only work on so many internal projects at a time. We also do client work, and we have to divide up our resources between that as well. So it took a while to get from the prototype stage to the Kickstarter. But once that happened, and once it got funded, we dedicated ourselves to working on Tapestry full time. And we've been working on it in earnest since last March. So it will be a year this March.
It's well developed. I mean, I think David could probably say the same. I mean, the concept is just gorgeous. This is probably the best app I've ever played with, just simply because it saved me so much time from opening up 3, 4, 5 different apps to do what Tapestry does, right?
Right.
It just puts it all in one place, and the timeline is just gorgeous. I'm able to, as you stated, one of my favorite things is I can check my podcasts, I can check my YouTube, I can check Mastodon. It just was endless. It was just like, oh my gosh, this is so enlightening.
I love that YouTube is in there as well. I think that's brilliant, because I wouldn't have been expecting this,
That was huge. That was huge for us.
It really, when we first started working on it, I will be honest, I myself wasn't totally sold on the concept of it, because I'm the type of person that opens Mastodon and obsessively reads it, and that's what I do. And then in my spare time, I'll go and check YouTube, or I'll look for a blog post or something like that. But I wasn't convinced of how much I would like it until it really started to come together. And now I really do see some of the advantages of it, especially when it comes to things like YouTube and podcasts. They're just right there. They're presented along with everything else. And when one comes along, if you don't have time to read it or listen to it or watch it now, you can mark it for later and come back to it at another time and just continue reading, scrolling and reading. So it does save time.
I think because you can create different timelines, and I suppose I would have some things that I find more on Mastodon. I get more kind of tech news and tech discussion on Mastodon, but I get more of my sport and things like that on Blue Sky. And the fact that I can kind of mix these things into one app, I guess, is one of the strengths as well, and the different timelines they can create as well. If you want to explain a little bit about that.
Yeah, you can, if you subscribe to the app, you can use the app for free. It comes as a free download, and you can use it perfectly fine in the single unified all feeds timeline. And you can go down and read through and scroll that. But if you want to create custom timelines and kind of create a granular experience for your likes and interests, then you'll need to subscribe. And subscribing gets you a couple things. There is advertising, but there's a special personal ad network that we created in the app of only the things that we want ourselves to be advertised. And we don't do any tracking or any of that those garbage ad network, Google and all of those guys do. So even the ads are designed with privacy in mind in Tapestry. But if you subscribe, you can remove those ads. You can also create custom timelines. You can create what we call muffle and mute filters that'll let you filter terms, phrases, people, and other things from the timeline that you do not want to see, which I personally have found quite helpful in these days and times. You can customize the appearance of the timeline, the color of the feeds, and things like that. So if you create custom timelines, you can group them according to your likes and preferences, or even to the type of media. If you just want a podcast timeline, you can create that, or just a videos timeline, you can create that, and which is really helpful.
One of the terms people will come across maybe when they first download the app is connectors. Do you want to talk about what those are and how? Because I think for me, that's one of the terms I had to kind of get my head around a little bit.
Yeah, Tapestry does what it does by it has these plugins. Basically, they're called connectors, and each one is specifically tailored for a source on the web. One is for RSS or XML blog feeds, websites, and so on. Another is YouTube. Another is audio podcasts, and so on. So there's all of these plugins within the app called connectors that let you input a URL or a destination on the web, and that connector feeds that content through the app and to your timeline. And one of the best parts about Tapestry, and the part that Craig's brainchild, was opening up the connectors to third-party developers. So we created an API where developers can come and get documentation and tools so that they can write their own connectors for Tapestry. So if there's a special type of content on the web that you want to get at, that's not a standard web page or something, maybe you have a smart appliance in your home, and that appliance puts the information on the web somewhere, but it's not easy to get at. You could, in theory, write a connector for it and have the fridge put that information into your Tapestry timeline. That's a really obscure, geeky example, but it's just one thing that you could do with connectors to make Tapestry more extensible, more open, to really niche kinds of things. Someone has already written a connector for PixelFed, which is the Fediverse version of Instagram, to get photography into your timeline, which is awesome. Another person has written a connector for the App Store, so you can see what apps are featured every day on the App Store right in your Tapestry timeline. There's lots of examples. We're working on getting these connectors up onto the Tapestry website so that people can browse them and download them and install them and make use of them.
That was going to be my next question, but it is a real sign that, the open web is very much your commitment, and you know what I mean, that you're welcoming people in to make Tapestry better.
It's really important to us, really. After what happened with Twitter, we really learned a lesson there. And I hate to say it, but it really opened our eyes and pushed us in this direction. And I think it's a good thing. I think there's a resurgence of people discovering RSS feeds and blogging and all of these things. And it's more important than ever.
Yeah, these connectors are just simply amazing. I think that's the most powerful thing about Tapestry is that not only you're allowing other consumers to create their own connectors, but that's this beautiful plugin. You can tell it's really well thought out and designed to be able to grow and add things to it. Ironically, we probably laugh about this, but I found a roundabout way to get Twitter on to the Tapestry. There's a service out there that allows you to tap into that. You just put in what feed that Twitter does, and it pulls it onto their server, and then you just pull it from Tapestry. So I had to laugh about that. But this timeline I like to talk about because that is like the gold part of this, really, because what this does, it eliminates the noise for me. Yeah, I'm like you. I used to open up Mastodon, but it's just so noisy. There was just so much to absorb. And sometimes there's just too much for me mentally. And it was overwhelming, right? So this timeline, you kind of hit on it, that allows you to create timelines based what you want. So I have one that's noise-free, just focus area. Right. And then you can create these other profiles that allows you to put more noise in, and you can import OPMLs, which is kind of huge.
Right. Yeah, that's a great example. I actually know someone who did, it's really clever what they've done. They take all of their feeds, all of their blog feeds, their Mastodon feeds, everything else, and then they've created a special rule. And if the feed contains cute cats, it puts it into this particular timeline. So he has a timeline that is just kitties, and just, it's his moment of Zen timeline where he can go and just not have to worry about anything. He just scrolls, and everything he sees there is just cute cats, and that's brilliant. Those are the kinds of things that it's so gratifying when you make an app and you see how people use it that you never anticipated how they were going to do that. I would never have thought of that. People are so creative, and they're so ingenious sometimes, and it's very, very gratifying when stuff like that happens. I just thought it was great.
I'll tell you what's really gratifying, and I think David will agree, is that this is really accessible for voiceover users on the iOS. And I can't help to say thank you so much. I mean, you guys did a great job during the Twitterific days, how accessible it was. And that's why it was so successful in the blind community. And that you guys kept that up with Tapestry. Do you have, are there people on staff that helps you with that? Or is that something that you kind of done over time, you learned on your own, and you just get inputs from blind users to when something doesn't work right?
Yeah, we've really relied on the community for this aspect of our development. Thankfully, we collected a fantastic group of beta testers during Twitterific, and they provided the feedback and direction and suggestions that we used to improve Twitterific when it was popular and when it was at the height of its popularity. And so when it came time to do Tapestry, we called on a bunch of those people again and asked them if they would want to beta test Tapestry. And thankfully they did. They came right along and they gave us their feedback and told us how we could improve. It's tough, for us. We don't use the app with VoiceOver. We just scan it visually, and so we rely on that kind of feedback in order to know what we are doing right and what we could be doing a lot better. And like anything else, it can always be better. There's things that can always be improved in any application. The thing that we're dedicated to is we would definitely want to improve it. We want to make it as accessible as possible over time. Our resources are limited. We have to determine what is the next thing we're going to work on. What is the next part of the app that's going to improve? And 1.0 out of the gate wasn't as friendly to navigate in the VoiceOver as possible, but we made positive steps to combine those rotor actions and make it a whole lot less verbose. And the point updates have increased that a great deal. And received a lot of great feedback from the blind community about that. There's more work to do there, for sure.
So I was going to say, I think it took you all of about 2 days to get the first major update to VoiceOver out. So I think that was pretty good. And
that's a good story there, though. I mean, the reason why it only took 2 days is because when we submitted the first update, I fully expected the app to not get through app review. I fully expected it to be rejected multiple times. That's just the way of the world on the App Store. And so we had built in like 2 weeks into the schedule to get through app review. And then it didn't. We submitted it and it was approved. It was approved within a day. It just went right through. And so we had this 2 weeks. We told the press and everything we're going to be released on this day. And so we had 2 weeks in between when it was approved and when it was supposed to be released. And we worked all those 2 weeks on the first point update. So by the time that 1.0 came out, 1.0.1 was ready to go. It was really like nothing.
That's really cool. And I was going to ask, actually, like, a lot of companies will say the right things about accessibility, but often you find accessibility is, quote, on the roadmap, but you're waiting and waiting. Whereas you guys, it genuinely seems to be a priority. Like, where does that go back to? Is it back to the Twitterific days? Is it before that? How did accessibility for Iconfactory become a priority?
That's a really good question. And I don't know exactly when it became a priority, but Twitterific was definitely one of the catalysts for it. Because when you have an app that people rely on every day to do their daily consumption of news, of social interaction with other people, it becomes part of their workflow. It becomes part of their lifestyle. And so you're going to hear about it from people who want to be able to use it, but can't. Those people who need it to be accessible for one reason or another, whether they're blind or they have colorblind or they have some kind of stigmatism, so they can see, but not as well as other people. And so they start to ask for these things. And it really starts to hit home about how important it is, because if I was in their position, I would want to be able to use it too. And it's just doing the right thing. It's I don't know why. I mean, I kind of understand why some developers and some companies don't think that it's important to make their apps or their products as accessible as possible. It's an afterthought for some of them, or they don't want to spend the money on it. But it has really shown us, especially when Twitterific came along, that how important it is to make what you work on and what you care about as available and as accessible to the widest possible audience as there is. And it's firmly ingrained in us. We when we started out designing Tapestry and everything, we knew we wanted it to be completely accessible. I designed the timeline with certain things in mind so that they would be readable under different circumstances. I had learned all of those lessons from Twitterific, and I put them to use when I designed a lot of the aspects of Tapestry. So
you can really see it. We can really see it. And, I like to talk about another option in there that I think it deserves mentioning is that not just but the connectors, but I've also noticed that there's possibility in this going to be mind-blowing if this takes off. But I noticed that for each feed you add in there onto Tapestry can be customized and configured separately. And the reason I say that is the biggest thing is that if you do not want to have Tapestry open it through the internet browsers or whatever, I noticed that you have a component in there that will allow third parties to take advantage of your API. So, for example, I will say the podcast, for example, I think some people may have some issues with that because, yes, you can play it, but it's very limited. But it would be ideal if I would be able to open that in Overcast or Castro. Right. And that is there, right? So I wonder if you could explain a little more about that to us and how that idea is supposed to work.
Yeah. One of the limiting things about Tapestry is that you can't actually post in Tapestry. If you are looking at a Mastodon post, for instance, and you want to reply to it, you cannot simply just tap a button and reply directly inside of Tapestry. You have to use what we call the open-in icon, and then it sends that Mastodon post out to your app of choice, whether it's the browser is one, Ivory from TapBots is another. Mona is another. So you can set Tapestry to open certain feeds in the application of your choice, the one that you like to use the most, and then act on it. And then when you're done, you simply jump right back into Tapestry. We did that for a bunch of different reasons, but one, to include posting and replying, it would have been a huge technical hurdle for 1.0, and it already took a year to get into the App Store without posting and replying and all of this. So we've built into the app the concept of open in, and if the application has a URL scheme that we can make use of in Tapestry, like Ivory does or Mona does, then we can send the feed out to these third-party apps and you can act in them. Podcasts are problematic. They are not like other kinds of feeds. I'm not a programmer. I'm a designer, so I don't know the technical aspects of why exactly that is, but it is something that is on the list to improve in Tapestry. We would love to be able for you to go into your feed preferences and say, open all podcasts in Overcast, or open all podcasts in Apple Podcasts. And hopefully we'll be able to do that. So for some reason, the URLs that are hosted by Apple or on the podcasts are not the same, and they're not understood by the code the same way as other things. And I wish Craig was here. He could speak to this, but I can't specifically. So, but the short of it is, we know we want to be able to do that, and hopefully we'll be able to eventually.
And you guys support subreddit? Is that what I saw on there as a connector that you can use?
Yes, you can load in Reddit feeds, and we just put out an update today, 1.0.3, that even lets you specify not only the subreddit, but the type of feeds. There's hot, new, there's a couple other different flares, I think they're called, with subreddits, that you can follow those flares with the feed. So if you want to filter out the non-new stuff, you can do that now in Tapestry. It's pretty cool.
That's really
Check that out, Dave. Now you can add subreddits.
Absolutely, and especially since, because Reddit sort of seemed last year or a year or two ago to follow the Twitter shutdown third parties route. So it's great that we actually have that option in Tapestry.
I think that as a whole, this has just been brilliant. Everything you guys done with it, and I'm so glad you guys were able to come out with it, and what a splash it was. And I really love the aspect that it is very accessible for those that want to use the free tier. It is very wonderful to use, and I love your ad choices that you mentioned, that's not so intrusive, and they're actually good ads. I mean, they're talk about other apps that might be relevant to your iOS or Mac users, which is kind of cool. I'm sure a lot of people are going to ask this too, is Tapestry, does this work under the Mac, and is there a Mac version coming?
Yeah, you can use it on the Mac. Currently, it's in emulation from the iPad version. So it's not currently a native Mac app, but we just announced yesterday on the Iconfactory blog that a native version is coming. We're going to be starting to work on a native version of Tapestry, thanks in part from a grant that we received from Tumblr. And nice. They have been amazing. They just, while we were in the Kickstarter, while we were developing it, they came out of the blue and said they love Tapestry. They like the concept of it, and they wanted to help it along how they could, and they decided to help us monetarily with it, and that money is what we're going to be using to fund the native Mac version for the desktop. And we're thrilled about it, and we can't say thanks enough to them, but also to the people, of course, who have subscribed and purchased and Kickstarted. All the Kickstarter backers, they're the ones that got us to where we are today. We wouldn't be here without them. And we're grateful to all of them for their support and their patience while we have worked on this app. And we know it's taken some time to get from point A to point B, but they've really been wonderful, as have all our sponsors. So we're excited about that. No idea how long the Mac version will take. We don't know. But
one thing at a time, right?
Yeah.
And does it, because you mentioned iPad as well, so does it support timeline syncing, that kind of thing across devices?
Yes, it syncs your reading position via iCloud from iPhone to iPad, and even to the Mac. The emulated version will do it now, but there are some caveats there, so it's not as robust and everything on the Mac, of course, because it's emulated. So people have asked us about support for Vision OS, but we're just not going to go there. So
wait and find out if there's a product there yet first.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a cool name as well, actually. That was one completely random question, because it is obviously, if it makes sense as a name, but where did it come from, or who came up with it? Can you take the credit?
I can take partial credit for it. Naming things is always the hardest of anything. It really is. Whenever we go to name our apps or our products, we have long brainstorming sessions, and we just throw everything out there, and then we narrow it down over time to things that we think are more, they're going to stick, or people, they're going to resonate with people or whatever. And also to what URLs are available and all of these things. And Tapestry was one of the front runners early on. We weren't sure if we were going to be able to use it. And when we consulted with our lawyers and everything, and they advised us to call it Iconfactory Tapestry, because there are already Tapestry products and all of those that exist. And so, but in the App Store, yeah, it's Iconfactory Tapestry. So it seemed like a natural fit. It's a weaving together of threads of different kinds of content into a patchwork or a fabric or a quilt of stuff that you get to use and enjoy. It seemed like a natural fit.
Yeah, I think it's a great choice. Thomas, did you have anything else on your mind?
No, I think what we have discussed really shows the highlight of what Tapestry is. And I think the magic begins when you start to put your puzzle together, what you like about a timeline. And that's what's so beautiful about it, is that it was so unique and designed so well that it's no longer tied to a timeline that a app wants you to have or what they think you need to have. Tapestry does something totally different. It allows you to create your own timeline, and this is something that will remove a lot of the noises, and you can make it as noisy as you want, and that's the beautiful part about it. I think that people knowing that you can import OPMLs, that can open up a lot of doors that you already have in existence, and you guys created something remarkable. And this is one of those apps that I will say doesn't come along very often, that is so impactful to everyone, not just the blind community. It's just so well done. And you guys made it to the point where the future of Tapestry is rich, because you have opened it up to so many different connectors and APIs, and allow third-party developers to interact, as you mentioned, with Mona and Ivory, with the Mastodon, and the possibility is endless. So I think you guys got a huge hit on your hand, and congratulations on this, for doing such an awesome job of creating this.
I can't say thanks enough for that. It's tough, being in the App Store right now. It really is, to get seen and noticed, and to have enough people discover and download your app and then buy it to even make it a viable product is really tough. It is. It's unless you're doing it as a hobby. If you're doing it as a hobby, then that's a totally different thing. But doing it to make a living is challenging these days. And so hearing this kind of feedback is really, really great. It helps us to know that what we've done is useful, and people will want to use it, and it improves people's lives. It doesn't hurt people's lives or stuff like that. It really means a lot to all of us who work on it to hear feedback like that. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you very much.
Thank you too. That's got to be hard. That's got to be tough. You guys had such a huge set of subscribers and followers when you had Twitterific, and that just went into, it just went poof. And that was just everything you ever put into that, and your followers are gone. And now you have to redevelop everything you worked so hard for and do it all over again. That makes it hard, but I notice a lot of mainstream articles really putting Tapestry to the test and saying a lot of positive things about it. But I think it's just going to be the word of mouth that, hey, they're back. They're back and better than ever. And that's what I want to reach out to the blind community, is that if you guys like Twitterific, get Tapestry. You will love it. I know Dave and I can't say enough just to have YouTube connectors. I just, it's hard to explain, but that's just huge to me. But to have that with my podcast, with my Mastodon, with my Blue Sky, with my subreddit, with Tumblr, it's just like, wow, this is so amazing. Is that the same experience you have felt when you first played with it, Dave?
Yeah, I think it is absolutely just that ability to get it. Once you put that little bit of work in at the beginning to kind of make it the way you want it, and then you just keep tweaking it, and it's great. And I think it's making a great case for the open web, I suppose, as well, because like you said at the very start, you're getting, there's certainly an increasing community of people who want to get away from the algorithms and the billionaire deciding who should see, and into that open web and Fediverse kind of area, and hopefully that's where the growth is. That's what we'll see. And Tapestry, I mean, you've talked about so much about what it does, and we're on v1.03, so there's still so much growth as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, we're starting on 1.1 now, and there's going to be a lot of great things in that. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, I'm excited for your plugins. I think that's going to be a huge, if we can get that going. So many creative ideas to add more things to it, the better it'll be.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. So.
This has been an awesome interview. And was there anything you would like to talk to us about? Maybe any insight or something that you thought of, or last minute things you would like to talk about?
I can't think of anything. You guys have covered a lot of topics here and asked some really great questions. I always enjoy talking about app development in general, and I don't get to do it often. I'm not one that goes to Macworlds or expos and does that kind of thing. So I relish the opportunity to talk shop, as it were, and especially about accessibility, since it's a topic that's near and dear to our hearts. So I think you guys have done great. I really wanted to just say thank you for inviting me, and again for your awesome feedback of the app. It's something to be still doing this after so long, and we wouldn't be doing it without people like you who help to support us and get the word out about our work. So it means a lot to us, and we appreciate it more than you know. Thank you very much.
You bet. I'm going to give you credit too. That's one thing I should mention too, is that the design aspect is simplicity. And that's what makes this even better, is that there isn't much to it. There's a settings area, and then there's the area that you can select the different options for your timeline, and that's it. It's simple. It just works.
I'm a firm believer in simplicity is the key. Things are way too complicated. The older I get, the more complicated things get, and it's just, I can't deal with it.
We all feel that way.
Yeah, it's just yeah.
That's great. Well, I think on that we can wrap up and just say a huge thank you to you, Ged, from Iconfactory, for joining us, and thanks to everyone for listening.
This podcast was brought to you by the community at AppleVis.com. AppleVis, empowering people who are blind, deafblind, or who have low vision to get the most from Apple products and related technologies. A proud member of the Be My Eyes family. For more information, visit our website at www.applevis.com.